On the Friday, September 19th broadcast, every link tightens around the Dupree family like an invisible filament. The more they thrash, the more they bleed. Nicole stands at the center of the vortex, facing a truth so alarming that merely thinking of it knots her stomach. Anita and Vernon see the family portrait fracturing along the thinnest veins, afraid that the slightest pressure could shatter all they have spent a lifetime building. Elsewhere, Vanessa unexpectedly finds Bill and Joey sitting shoulder to shoulder, their silent nods broken by unreadable looks. And Leslie, amid her staging and retaliation, is dragged back to a question that seems old but never stops haunting her. Who her mother truly is, and whether what remains of Barbara is a myth, a distorted retelling, or another explosive secret powerful enough to burn through everything she clings to. All of it interlaces on a day when every decision, however small, can trigger an irreversible chain reaction. Nicole begins the morning with a wine-colored tie set in a slim velvet box, accompanied by a blank card. She recognizes the diagonal pattern at once. The gift she once carefully chose for Ted at the country club on a day she was trying to repair the dwindling capital of trust between them. But the silk has come back to her at a completely different time, and in a chillingly insinuating way. Nicole needs no words to recognize Leslie's familiar method. Unmistakable yet unspoken, forcing the recipient to fill the gaps with their worst imaginings. Nicole places the box on the table, then opens and closes it again, as if that movement could steady the erratic pulse in her throat. The alarming thing isn't only that Leslie slept with Ted, a blade aimed straight at Nicole's pride, but what it signifies. A challenge, a sign that Leslie is ready to turn every boundary into a trench and drag Nicole where she swore never to tread again. More alarming still, if Leslie is calm and calculating enough to send the tie back at precisely this moment, what Nicole sees is only the tip of the spear. The submerged part, the long game and final target, remains under the surface, and that is what keeps Nicole from sleeping. Nicole faces herself in the mirror and meets a face no longer the woman she was a year ago. Fine lines redrawn by strain, eyes smudging the line between resolve and exhaustion. She recalls the silent negotiations she's had with herself about letting go or holding on, leaving or staying, forgiving or striking back. In the past, the fear of being judged a failure had made her choose silence, to endure in the name of stability. But the tie in the velvet box pierces that fog. It reads like a document signed in invisible ink. Welcome to the battlefield. Nicole exhales, folds the box shut, and slides it into a drawer as if archiving evidence. She knows if she opens that drawer again, there will be no turning back, because that act will convert suspicion into a case, hurt into an argument, and feeling into strategy. The most alarming variable here is herself. A Nicole edging toward the most ruthless version of who she can be, where self-respect meets the need for control and breeds moves others will pay for. Anita views it all through the eyes of a woman who understands the supple power of rumor and symbol. She doesn't say it out loud, but she knows that tie, if it has landed back in Nicole's hands, is a signal. The family is already layered with fissures. Nicole's marriage spinning in the gyre, Chelsea's recent kidnapping leaving everyone shaken, and the old dependencies among the adults turning into cords yanking against each other. Anita looks at Vernon, who has always believed that silence, timed just right, lets the storm thin out on its own. Not this time. The storm has parked on the roof and is dumping more water. Vernon checks appointments, calls to make, grants to maintain, partner meetings that could morph into exit ramps if the family loses footing. He knows the flimsiest power is the kind built on image, and image is cracking before his eyes. His anxiety isn't loud. It thrums like a compressor in his chest, making him count the breaths between two choices. Shield his daughter by covering for her, or protect the family by cutting away the infected part. Meanwhile, Vanessa steps into her own frame, a scene that at first seems harmless. A quiet bar, warm lights, the sparse clink of glass. Then she sees Bill and Joey side by side, shoulder to shoulder in the literal sense. Two men who would usually post up at opposite ends of a room are now whispering, jotting notes, and sitting in loaded silence. Vanessa doesn't deny her instincts. Unlikely alliances are rarely accidents. They are the result of a larger pressure forcing adversaries to locate a shared interest. She doesn't know what the interest is, but she knows she can't look away. At the decisive moment, Vanessa doesn't skulk or sneak a photo. She walks over and makes both of them confront their reflections in her eyes. She doesn't need to raise her voice. Her presence alone converts the conversation into testimony. Bill's thin smile, Joey's knit brow, a flimsy quip about business. Each detail sharpens her suspicion. Vanessa says little, but the question hooks in her mind. If Bill and Joey are in the same boat, what river are they crossing, and who goes under if the boat capsizes? Contrary to everyone's assumption, Leslie is walking a very different path today. The teasing, the preemptive strikes, the emotional booby traps, all still present. Yet buried below them is a motive harder to read. The need to know who she is without anyone else to mirror her back. Barbara, the name that has long existed like a shrine, both beautiful and terrifying, returns in slivers of memory, faded photos, and in signed handwritten notes. Leslie follows the trail with a rare gentleness. Archive boxes at a charity where Barbara once appeared, hospital records with overlapping timestamps, even old text threads resurrected from a dated phone. No single datum qualifies as discovery, but the string of them set side by side lights a dangerous possibility. People may have told Barbara's story in the way most beneficial to them, and the chance that Leslie is not Barbara's biological daughter, though unproven, no longer feels like a jest. Leslie hates herself for caring. She hates more the idea that she may be a pawn in a game arranged before she ever took her first breath. The more she hates it, the deeper she digs. The deeper she digs, the more gaps she finds in accounts that were supposed to be sealed. Back to Nicole. The danger grows a body and edges when she recognizes that the tie isn't just evidence of a night across a line. It's an invitation to a negotiation she must command. Nicole thinks of Chelsea, of the fear that has lingered since the kidnapping, of how a rash decision could become a fresh wound bleeding into the last intact parts. She wants to strike, but she understands that in this house, the quickest killer isn't a knife. It's a sentence launched offbeat. Nicole weighs scenarios. Confront Ted and demand a tearful confession. Bait Leslie into revealing intent, or go quiet, gather proof, and drop the hammer at the optimal moment. She asks herself which path makes her least like a loser. Then she grows angry at the question itself. Why must she play a game written by other people's rules? Anita sees Nicole locking down the way strong women do when they're about to do something no one can stop. She doesn't intervene head-on, but she sets background calls in motion. An old friend on the club's board, a hotel clerk who knows how to keep a ledger shut, a journalist who owes her a silence. Anita doesn't want her daughter humiliated in public. Not out of empty vanity, but because she knows that once a reputation is dragged through the mud, every decision afterward is suspect. Vernon takes another tack. He convenes a tight meeting of trusted associates, scrubs the work streams tied to the Dupree name to make sure no one exploits this moment to pull strings and topple their standing. He doesn't know where the Nicole, Ted, Leslie line will end, but he knows its fallout will travel far beyond feelings. It reaches assets, influence, and commitments signed back when everyone thought their house was untouchable. After the face-off, Vanessa doesn't sit still. She resorts her files like a producer rebuilding the timeline of a movie with too many deleted scenes. Bill has been showing up to appointments he would normally ignore. Joey's finances have bulged in odd directions, coupled with closed-door meetings. Plot those points and a label-less graph appears. Vanessa resists labeling. She wants more data. She pings a source who helped her during the Chelsea case, probing without spilling too much. The further she goes, the clearer it becomes that Bill and Joey's linkage isn't born of fondness. It looks like a squeeze forcing them into the same chair, because standing alone gets each of them hit from a specific angle. The question remains, what angle and whose net? For Leslie, the search for her mother quickly morphs into a moral stress test. If she learns Barbara isn't her biological mother, what does she gain beyond the right to indict those who let her grow up inside a half-true, half-fabricated tale? If she confirms Barbara is her mother, but all the memories have been rewoven by someone's self-interest, will her anger harden into something deeper and harder to put out? Leslie stands between two eroding banks. The more she thinks, the more her vengeance against the Duprees, once a focusing mechanism for clean strikes, blurs beside the motive to learn the truth about Barbara. One side is a power game, the other the root of existence. In a rare minute of candor, Leslie admits, she fears the truth in both directions. She fears not belonging to anyone. She fears belonging to someone but having loved and hated in the wrong ways from the start. Then a small detail jolts Nicole. The velvet box carries a faint narrowly note Leslie often wears. Nicole leans in, rewinds the country club evening, remembers tying that tie around Ted's neck, recalls a strained smile, the dinner's stretched silence. Old emotional fragments needle a new pride. Nicole realizes she's skirting the cliff where people convert pain into punitive power. But to punish meaningfully, she needs a script, a stage, an audience. She hates the idea of performing, yet knows in this world no one is not performing. There are only people who do it well and those who get caught doing it poorly. Anita proposes a soft strategy to Vernon. Let Nicole hold the reins but erect the guardrails. She suggests beefing up protection around Chelsea and the most vulnerable, because any public clash between Nicole and Leslie can generate new whirlpools that suck the weaker in. Vernon listens, silent, and agrees. He schedules a meeting with a lawyer he trusts, not to negotiate a family quarrel, but to prepare for the moment a private matter inevitably becomes public. That is the nature of families like theirs. Nothing is truly private, only unannounced. Vanessa returns to the bar where she spotted Bill and Joey. This time, the seats are empty. But on the tabletop, she notices a folded napkin with pen marks. Numbers crossed out, a timestamp, an abbreviation. She doesn't pick it up like a nosy detective. She studies it for a few seconds and commits it to memory. Her gut tells her the numbers denote a deadline, the letters a location. She leaves as calmly as she arrived. She doesn't know how volatile the story she's chasing will become, but she knows she's past the point of retreat. After a day of rummaging, Leslie stands at a cold storage door on the edge of an archive facility, where a kind and nameless manager hands her an old box. Inside is a hospital intake sheet for Barbara on a date that doesn't match the family's official story. A one-day discrepancy is nothing. A one-year discrepancy is terrifying. Leslie stares at the number, every muscle tightening by reflex. No conclusion lurks here, only a suspicion worthy of deeper digging. She knows the next step. Find people who were there, hear them recall, compare the ways they remember. She also knows her own skill set. She manipulates better than she listens. If she mixes the two this time, she'll poison the very well she needs. She must learn restraint, an ordeal for someone used to lighting fires to see the road. Night falls, and Nicole finally opens the drawer. She lays the tie on the table, arranging it beside innocuous-looking items. A photocopied hotel receipt, a grainy camera pull with faces out of frame, a kitchen roster from that night. No detail proves anything, but together they form a strongly suggestive backdrop. Nicole isn't chasing truth like a cop. She's building a stage on which truth will trip over its own feet. Her plan is simple. Let Leslie see how much she knows, make Ted feel watched, and let others in the house sense the coming pressure of public scrutiny. A mind game instead of violence. The danger lies in the fact that the puppeteer is also the target. One mistimed move and the strings recoil around her wrists. Anita gets a short call from her friend at the club. The rumor is about to break, and without a deft move it will pop right over an event that requires calm. She thanks her, hangs up, and sits by the window a long time. She can't tell Nicole to do nothing. Who has the right to demand that a mother, a wife, whose pride has been invaded, stay silent one more time? She can only tidy the field before the blood spills. Vernon enters, sets a hand on the chair back, says nothing. Both understand there is little time left to choose soft or hard. Tomorrow may be the pivot. Before sleeping, Vanessa opens her notebook and scrawls a line, B&J deadline abbreviated venue. She draws an arrow to another page where the keyword Chelsea is circled. She doesn't know if there's a connection and refuses to jump ahead. But she knows every secret in this world is stitched to other secrets with threads you only see under the right light. She promises herself that next time she won't show up empty-handed. Leslie leaves the archive with a head louder than a rush hour station. On the way home, she swallows a bitter truth. The closer she gets to Barbara, the more her revenge against the Duprees feels convenient rather than necessary. The thought makes her irritable. Revenge has provided a sense of purpose, while the hunt for truth forces her to confront a primal loneliness. She hates the feeling of no one at her back when the flames go out. In that irritation, she almost calls someone, nearly Ted, just to hear a human voice. She doesn't. She pockets the phone, pushes the door, and steps into a windless night. September 19th ends without a literal explosion, but anyone paying attention can see the fuses are set. Nicole is calm, but it's the calm at the cliff's edge. Anita and Vernon shift from quiet worry to organized preparation. Vanessa moves from witness to tracer, and Leslie pivots from pure revenge to a perilous search for identity. The alarming thing Nicole knows isn't just that her heart was betrayed. It's that her opponent has learned her language and knows how to bend it. Anita and Vernon's fear isn't merely about public face. It's about a whole ecosystem of influence that can collapse under a well-timed shard of truth. Vanessa's suspicion isn't mere curiosity. It's the survival instinct of someone who has seen too many deals notarized by a handshake in the dark. And Leslie's question about Barbara isn't only genetics. It's whether she can keep doing harm without losing the ability to distinguish justice from a winner's thrill. If tomorrow Nicole throws the door wide, Leslie will have to choose between guarding her secret and accepting exposure. If Vanessa deciphers the timestamp on the napkin, Bill and Joey will have to explain why they were together at a place neither should have been. If Anita and Vernon choose to shield, they'll pay with a portion of the truth. If they choose to expose, they'll pay with a portion of their power. And if Leslie's journey concludes that Barbara isn't her mother, her fury toward the Duprees will transmute into a different fire. The fire of someone robbed of her origin story. Hotter, wilder, harder to douse. But if Barbara is her mother and the deviations are the product of engineered memory, Leslie must face another brutal question. How many innocents is she hurting to prove she's strong? In a world where every glance can be evidence and every silence can be translated as confession, they are all pressed to the wall. And when a person is pinned there, they don't choose their best behavior. They choose whatever spares them the feeling of being trapped. That is when the worst decisions arrive dressed in the most persuasive clothing. September 19th offers no answers. It frames the question so starkly they can't be ignored. Who flips the switch first? Nicole, with her plan to stage the truth. Vanessa, with a clue leading to an improper rendezvous, or Leslie, with a finding about Barbara potent enough to collapse a house strung up on wire. Whatever the answer, one certainty remains. Each of them, out of anger, fear, or the need to know who they are, already has a hand on the switch. And when one switch snaps on, the rest will follow. A line of marquee bulbs racing into the night, dazzling, blinding, and, if no one is careful, burning everything down.